On March 23, 2009, the LBS Holdings Laboratory in Tallahassee, Florida, suffered its greatest safety catastrophe in 8 years. The following is a reenactment of what happened.
At 1:55, the team leader left reconnoitering early to attend a luncheon with professors to celebrate 2 months in the lab without injuries. At 2 o'clock, the operator signed into the laboratory with no team leaders or safety officers present to overview the experiments. This lab was completely unprofessional. As a safety officer, I wasn't even sure what I was supposed to do in the lab. The only people that were required to be there were the operators. And these operators were not very well trained, weren't even aware of the basic safety knowledge. And don't get me wrong, this isn't their fault. This is just the way the lab worked. You were given a pamphlet and a brief pat on the shoulder until get to work. There was no general welfare. Nobody wanted to know what happened to the students. They just wanted results. This caused a lot of fear for me and the operators. We didn't know what was going to happen. All we knew was we needed data. Because with the data you made the report. And with the report you got a grade. If you didn't get the data, you didn't get the report, you didn't get the grade. Just the entire priority system was off. And this is probably what caused what happened in March. But even with all that, it could have been prevented. Even with all that. There were near misses and there were incidents that were never reported or never looked into that all indicated this was going to happen. That something big was going to go down. Due to poor time management and a need for data, the operator is forced to run 3 experiments at once. He begins with pipe flow. Checking the logbook, he finds only one entry, flow ready for a test. Not understanding, he assumes that the experiment has already been set up. Without further instructions, he turns on the pump and leaves to start another experiment.
Bueno, yo siempre tuve problemas comunicándome en el laboratorio por el inglés, ¿no? Como le dicen, my English not very good looking. Y bueno, los compañeros a veces me hacían dibujitos, cosas esas, ¿cómo le llaman? Operating procedure, para entender las cosas, porque si no, ¿qué va? Yo no entendía nada. Y así eran los problemas con la comunicación en ese laboratorio. Pero bueno, todo iba bien, no pasaba nada grande, a veces se regaba un par de coolant ahí un poquito, pero nada que haya que contarle al profesor, todo estaba bien. Así que bueno, seguimos con los experimentos. Pero los reportes, terrible. A veces nos pasábamos 80 horas a la semana trabajando en esas cosas y bueno, pues al final luchando para conseguir la nota, pero que va, no teníamos tiempo para andar escribiendo cositas así, ¿cómo le llaman esa vaina? Incident report. No, ¿qué va? No, eso era una pérdida de tiempo. Total, nadie se preocupaba de eso, así que lo dejábamos así.
Yeah, technically we're supposed to be in there all day, but you know, that gets tiring after a while, and you really start to lose focus. That could be dangerous. So what we try to do is we try to keep things interesting. We come in just once in a while and see everything's running smoothly, and nothing's on fire. You know, the only person who's really supposed to be in there all day is the operator, and that guy doesn't know the definition of fatigue. We really consider him like part of the equipment itself. I mean, once he went on an 18-hour shift, and he said he did it because he felt like it. Or, actually I didn't really understand what he was saying. But what you could understand was the enthusiasm he had for his job.
The second experiment run is flashpoint. Finding no logbook and no other operators present, the operator begins the trial. He deviates from procedure and opens the gas more than is required to get a test flame. He also raises the fume hood above the safety levels for better access. This deviation causes propane to slowly seep into the room, creating a fire hazard. Returning to the pipe flow experiment, the operator finds the floor to be covered in antifreeze. The operator has no instructions to deal with spills, and there are no MSDS on file in the laboratory. He calls the safety officer, and he is informed that priority is given to finishing the experiments, so the spill is left unattended and another safety hazard is made.
After the CSB's investigation of the LBS lab explosion, it was determined that the operations within this lab caused it to be a hazardous work environment. Experiments were improperly conducted and typically deviated from standard written procedures. And although experiments could, in theory, be run with one person, a single person cannot run 3 experiments simultaneously. The operator was improperly trained in the safety aspects of each experiment and blatantly overlooked the hazards like the antifreeze spill and the open fume hood for the sake of obtaining results.
Finally, the operator begins the 3rd experiment, heat exchanger. He is unaware that he has antifreeze on his shoes and he is tracking it all over the startup area. Just before he finishes startup procedure, he trips and breaks some wire. The wire later sparks the fumes.
Because of budget cuts, the safety officer had to reduce safety training to a single pamphlet for each experiment. These budget cuts also affected the number of people used for each process. The company hired less supervisors for each experiment. Equipment maintenance was not sufficiently up to date. Faulty wiring and outdated parts greatly added to the danger associated with each process. Whenever incident reports were written and filed, they were usually about equipment problems. Most of these incidents were never resolved, and students continued operating these processes as usual. Faulty equipment, safety training, process oversight, as well as many other factors greatly increased the risk of a significant incident occurring at this lab.